Breaking news. You may or may not have heard this, but we're going to interrupt this normal podcast, Retro Recon working title, for some breaking news. That's right. The aliens are coming. I know. Scary stuff, right? But there is, we're going to go over the evidence. Maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not, but there are some people that believe that the aliens are coming and they're hostile. So we must prepare ourselves for the aliens. What am I talking about? I don't know if any of you have heard this, but I had to talk about it because this is one of those things that is just so very interesting to me and a lot of other people. Aliens, right? You ever watch that Ancient Aliens TV show or the X-Files or any of those shows about Area 51? You know, the aliens are out there and they're coming. So here's the thing. All right. So allegedly, and we're going to get into what this is and what it could be, I guess. Allegedly, there is an object that is in space right now that's heading our way. And this thing is going to be here around Thanksgiving or right before, which is unfortunate for me because Thanksgiving is one of the greatest holidays you could ever, have because of all the food, turkey and dressing. Oh my goodness. Turkey and dressing is an amazing thing. And I don't want the aliens or anybody else to mess up my turkey and dressing. But, and don't tell me you eat stuffing. If you eat stuffing instead of dressing, you probably need the aliens to mess your stuff up. Anyway, so here's the thing. There's an object. It is traveling 36 miles per second, which is pretty fast, right? It's supposed to be 7 miles wide across, heading our direction as we speak right now. It's coming this way. Now, this thing has kind of flown, pun intended, under the radar. Most people haven't said anything about it, but there is a guy that has written a paper about this. Now, this thing is supposed to be the same size as the asteroid, likely, that wiped out the dinosaurs. The asteroid that created the Yucatan Peninsula and all that stuff that wiped out the dinosaurs. This thing is supposed to be the size of that, right? So anyway, this guy, he's a Harvard physicist, scientist. He's a Harvard scientist. His name is Avi Loeb. And he says that this thing could be hostile alien technology heading our way right now. He has sort of published this thing. And this guy works at Harvard. So I guess, I don't know. Anyway, so he's put this idea out there that these aliens are coming, right? They have this 7 mile wide thing that they're on. They're coming. They could be hostile and we could be in a lot of, trouble. Now, some of the evidence that he puts out there, him and a lot of his, the people that work with him, his, colleagues, are saying that this thing is taking a path that it shouldn't take. It's like this is very unusual, the path that this object is taking. The aliens are, taking the scenic route, I guess. And they're going by 3 planets. They're going by Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, which normally, according to Mr. Loeb, Dr. Loeb, they don't normally do this. These objects, when they come through, they don't normally take that route. And it's like 0.005% that this thing could be like a natural phenomenon. That's what he says. And he's published this thing, or at least somewhat. I mean, it is one of those things that he's put out there. Now, the name of it, NASA knows about this thing also, I should mention. NASA knows about it, and it's called 31 Atlas, if you want to look it up. 31 Atlas, this anomaly in the sky that's coming our way, right? So Loeb and his colleagues say 31 Atlas, the route that it's taking, it has to be hostile aliens coming our way, right? I haven't heard this much about aliens or seen this much about aliens since I went to Walmart on a Saturday night. I swear they're really getting into the whole alien thing lately, and it's very interesting. They're supposedly our government knows about all these things, and if you listen to the conspiracy theories and all, there's aliens everywhere. They're all over the place. Anyway, so this is a very interesting story because it could affect Thanksgiving, goodness gracious, or life in general. It could basically be an extinction event, according to Mr. Loeb in his paper about these aliens. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. Now, so just to put everybody's mind at ease before I get into, some other things about aliens, NASA has seen this and NASA is aware of it, and they're not as concerned as Mr. Loeb, but they know it's there. Now, aliens, historically, there have been some things that have occurred that, as a historian or somebody who teaches, history and talks about these things, because I love talking about a good alien story. I mean, you can't really, you have alien stories out there. People have seen all kinds of things in the sky at all kinds of different times throughout history, as they say. So this is not the first time people have been scared to death that aliens are, around. One of the more interesting ones, and harder to explain at least, happened in 1561 in Nuremberg. Now, Nuremberg, of course, is in Germany, famously, but at this particular time, it was an independent state of the Holy Roman Empire. As Voltaire so famously said, wasn't holy, wasn't Roman, or wasn't an empire. But so Nuremberg, there was an incident that happened in 1561, right? And this has been recorded by not only text but also in art. There's a woodcut by a guy named Hans Glaser that kind of shows you what supposedly happened on this day. So what happened in 1561 in Nuremberg is a very interesting thing because it appeared, at least according to the people that were there was like a celestial event in the sky where you had these allegedly aliens fighting each other in the sky over Nuremberg, right? Well, that's interesting in and of itself. You have aliens fighting. So what was this? Now, they said there were all these little circles and triangles and all these different things that were in the sky that had waged war, at least that's what they said, right, with each other and then disappeared. Sounds interesting, right? Now, the woodcut and some of the art that you see about this, you'll see the different things in the sky. There's circles, there's triangles, there's all kinds of different lights and different things that come off of the shapes, and this led to the belief that there was some type of battle occurring in the sky between aliens. At least that was the idea, right? Now, what could this be? If you are a scientist or even a historian that comes through and tries to debunk some of these things, right? What could this be? Well, it turns out there is a natural phenomenon that occurs from time to time called a sundog. If you've never heard of a sundog, it can produce things that appear like what these people thought were aliens fighting. So basically what it is, if you can imagine the sun in the sky, and then you have two like mirror suns on both sides of it, and then maybe some other shapes and like reflections around those. It's called a sundog. Most people think that that's what they saw in Nuremberg in 1561 was a sundog. Yeah, I don't know if it was or not. There's no way to know. It's a very interesting thing. Depends on whether you want to suspend disbelief and say, definitely this is aliens, right? It's got to be aliens. I have no other explanation. So aliens. But chances are, I mean, the sundog theory makes a lot of sense and could very well be it. Who knows? But that is one of the more interesting events that occurred when it comes to aliens, right? Now, a couple other things I should mention. If you're studying history, you will run across some events that would you would kind of roll your eyes a little bit and say, "Wait a minute." Constantine, before he actually converted to Christianity, Roman Emperor Constantine, right? Everybody knows this. Before he converted to Christianity, he was in a battle and he allegedly saw something in the sky that resembled a cross. It was fire in the sky, and this thing may or may not have helped him in the battle. And this, along with his mother, who was a one of the early Christian believers, actually led him to becoming, Christian himself, and changing the religion of the empire to Christianity. So this allegedly happened to Constantine, and that's not unusual. People see things in the sky, and then kind of begin to worship them, for lack of a better term. There are things in the during World War II. You may or may not have heard of this. There were a thing called cargo cults. These were in the Pacific. There were islands in the Pacific, and as the United States and some of the allies, some of the planes that they would fly over, they had supplies that they would take from one place to another and try to get it to the soldiers who were fighting over there. And on occasion, some of these things would drop supplies onto islands that were inhabited by natives who did not have any contact with the outside world, right? So as they flew over, they would drop these supplies. Some of them would land there, and these were really cool things for these natives. They'd never seen this stuff before, so they assumed that this was the gods dropping, cool stuff for them, right? So what they did, which is very interesting, especially if you study archaeology and history and different things, what these people did, because they had no contact with any of this technology or didn't understand what it was or even knew what was going on, they started to build monuments, right? They built to these planes that flew over, these cargo planes. So they built these huge, like, monuments to these planes in hopes that they would return again. And they call this this phenomena a cargo cult, which is a very fascinating thing, because I mean, you can look at historically at different cultures and things, and you can see how people have built things, or that would, you think that at that time was your deities, right? So anyway, very interesting side note there. Also, Alexander the Great. Now, this one is more in dispute, I would say. Alexander the Great actually did see things in the sky. Well, I don't want to say actually did. He may have saw some things in the sky. There's some accounts that he actually had these things helped him in battle, and this and that and the other, and blah 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 blah. But most people tend to think that's kind of a stretch when it comes down to it. But there's been, when you look at history and you start to look at all the different things. I mean, there's so much out there that you can look at and say, wait a minute, what is this? What is that? And you see a lot of these things on TV and documentaries, like the Nazca lines. Like, you can only see what these things are from the sky. So why did they build them that way? I don't know. I mean, that's what people say. The Nazca lines, of course, are in Peru and are different geoglyphic, I guess you call it, shapes that are on the ground. So the only way you can really appreciate them is from the sky. So some people say, well, that was constructed for the aliens, right? I don't know. Anyway, that is neither here nor there as far as this thing that is coming toward the earth now as we speak. But even our founding generation, even our founders, believed in Well, believed in not only aliens, but believed in life that was out in the. They just accepted this in a lot of cases, and you have to dig for this sometimes. But like I have said many times before, if you just read what people write and you read their accounts, they'll tell you what they believe. They will tell you what they really think. Right? It's there. It's it's in black and white, so to speak. So and it's out there, so you can look at this, and different ones have thought different things, and they all sort of believed in it one way or the other. I mean, John Adams famously wrote a lot of things. I mean, John Adams was a very religious person, and he believed that there was life on all planets, and that he thought that each star was like a sun or something, and each one had a planet like ours, and each one had a Jesus, their own Jesus. It was the same Jesus, John Adams thought, but they, it was one of those things that the he thought that Protestants should get out in front of and say, hey, that was just his thinking. Another guy who was kind of big on the multi-planet idea, the multi planet kind of thing of the life on different planets, was a guy named Ethan Allen. Ethan Allen, interesting guy all the way around. Ethan Allen was the leader of the Green Mountain Boys, who had a lot of successes during the American Revolution. They were a ragtag bunch, let me tell you. If you've ever seen the movie The Patriot, right, with Mel Gibson, don't take that for any history, right? Because there is no real, history in it. But the idea of going to the bars or going to the rough side of town and recruiting some soldiers and different things, that's Ethan Allen. I mean, you can totally see Ethan Allen in that, because that's what he did. The Green Mountain Boys were a ragtag bunch. They kind of did the guerrilla warfare type thing. Well, Ethan Allen was an interesting fellow. And Abraham Lincoln used to tell a story about Ethan Allen, right? Now, Lincoln was known to tell stories that were a little bit off color, maybe not appropriate for, certain types of people. But he would do this. I mean, Lincoln was known to tell a somewhat off color joke. And he used to tell a story about Ethan Allen. So Ethan Allen was held prisoner by the British at a point during the Revolution, according to Lincoln. And during this time frame, the British were going to play a joke on Ethan Allen. So back then, they didn't have like indoor plumbing and stuff. They had well, some people didn't, I guess. They had the outhouse, right? So what they did was Ethan had to go to the outhouse, or go to the bathroom, and the British people actually affixed. They put a representation, right, a painting of George Washington in the outhouse. So Ethan had to go to the bathroom. So they said, all right, well, here it is. They took him out to the outhouse, and Ethan went that direction. And as he went in, and then he came out and went back to see his captors, the British, and the British were looking at him, kind of laughing. And Ethan no-sold the whole thing. It's like he didn't act like he saw anything while he was in the bathroom. He wasn't going to give them the pleasure, right? So they asked him and said, "Well, Mr. Allen, what did you think of our facilities?" And he turned and looked at him and says, "Well, I'll tell you this: nothing will make an Englishman shit faster than General Washington." So there you go. That was the story that Abraham Lincoln used to tell about Ethan Allen. But Ethan Allen believed in aliens. George Washington probably somewhat did too. Now, you have to take some of this with a grain of salt, because it's not 100% sure exactly when they're talking about these things in the context of what they're saying. You have to make sure that, just be careful when you're reading that sort of stuff. But I mean, the vastness of space. I mean, surely there's something out there, right? I mean, they found water on Mars, right? There's even allegedly, what is the old story about Mars, the face that was on Mars? don't want to go too far into that, but there were some people out there that believed there was basically a culture on Mars, and they had to move. They had to move, and they moved here. And I think John Carter, if you follow I think it was a comic book, and then it was a failed movie, but it's an interesting story where he was a guy who found this ancient civilization on Mars or some nonsense. I don't know. Not to say it's nonsense. Could be true. I don't know. I don't want to be the guy who dismisses these things. But back to our original idea. There is an object hurtling towards space right now. We can't get Bruce Willis at the moment. Sadly enough, we can't get Bruce Willis at right now because he has enough to deal with to go and save us, right? And this thing could be an extinction event, of epic proportions, or could it? So NASA is aware of this, and because of this guy who put the paper out there and all that good stuff, NASA has responded to this whole movement and everything. And NASA has said that, this thing likely has been around for quite some time. In fact, this thing could be like 1 million years old, this object that's been floating through space. And chances are it's not going to get anywhere near us. It's going to, be one of those. We have near misses all the time, right? There's all kind of stuff that flies by the Earth and never bothers us. But I think they actually do have a plan if something does come close, where they can knock it off course or something. I don't know if they do or not, but they seem to plan for all kinds of stuff. I know that they have somewhere, I don't know where it is, but they have like a bunker where they have kept just in case there's like a apocalyptic event. They've kept seeds and different, evidence of our life here and technology and different things they put. And just in case, whoever survives can, start over again or something. So, some of the things they have planned for, I suppose. But that's the breaking news today about aliens. They're on the way. Now, what do you think about that? Do you think that this thing is a hostile alien threat? I kind of don't, to be really honest with you. I always think it would be kind of cool, maybe if there's life in the universe out there, I mean, surely there's something somewhere. But in this particular case, I don't know. I mean, I think the chances of this thing being um, actual hostile aliens are not, it's probably not that, valid. Although, and I will say something else about Mr. Loeb. He is an alien believer. He believes in UFOs. He has published papers previously that have been like, there's aliens out there. Aliens. He's done this before, so this is not the first time. So it kind of fits with, some of his beliefs and ideas. So I wouldn't panic too much yet about that. I mean, I personally, I have wanted to see a UFO. I have looked for them in the sky. I look every night just in case, but I've never seen anything. Like I say, except Walmart on a Saturday night. I really haven't seen a lot of aliens out there. And I used to work in law enforcement too. I saw a guy who was a trustee in the jail used to work in that shapeshifted one time. Yeah, true story. We actually. I'm not going to say his name. I don't even know if he's still alive or not, but I'm not going to say his name. But anyway, so he used to work. The trustees they could let him out and they would work and different things like that. And one time I came up behind him and I goosed the siren. He cool guy. But anyway, that I shouldn't have done that. But in that moment, I think either his soul left his body or he shapeshifted, and it was yeah. He was mad at me for quite a while after that. But anyway, so there you go. The story of the hostile aliens coming our way. Breaking news. There you go. So, take appropriate measures. Do what you need to do, right? Go get some bread and milk or whatever it is you need to do to prepare for these aliens heading our way. So be careful out there, folks. So that's it for today. That's the breaking news. I hope everyone has a fantastic day and watch out for the aliens.